Remind people again of the front pages when they got engaged and when they got married, which we've got here, I think. This is a montage. You could not get a bigger collection of more ecstatic front pages welcoming the first biracial woman to the royal family. I remember covering the wedding. There was euphoria from the public and the media. And yet she says in the interview, from the beginning of our relationship, the press were racist.
But the point that I think she was making was that headline that said straight out of Compton. Now, that might not mean anything to other people, but to a black person, Shaka, you'd understand this, it is very painful. It's saying you're ghetto, that you're rough. And other people might laugh it off, but remember, if you've lived with this backdrop bubbling away, Piers, if I can, I'd liken it to if you're blind, if you're sight impaired your whole life, somebody might say nasty things to you every so often, but your whole life is affected by where people place things or don't place things, or whether there's a steps or there's a ramp, your accessibility to life, how much opportunity you may or may not have. I don't think she was ready for this at all. And I actually don't think Harry was either. I know from experience, it's very painful for a white partner to see firsthand all these little microaggressions and what have you, and they're shocked. If somebody brings up, yeah, but what colour is your child going to be? And I've been in that situation as well. It is deeply shocking. It might not seem shocking to the person saying it.
Let me jump in on that. We don't know the context of that conversation. We don't know who's supposed to have said it. Can I put to you just a scenario that may have happened? And I wonder whether you find this, you would automatically think this is offensive and racist. If you have two parents, one's white and one's black, as in Meghan's case, and she's pregnant and going to have a baby, is it racist and offensive for a family member to say, oh, what colour might the baby be? I mean, I would imagine in most families that might be a question they think and they might ask, but not in a racist or derogatory manner. Now, tell me if I'm wrong.
Piers, why does it matter what colour a child is? As long as a child is healthy.
It's just it might just be curiosity, Trisha. In other words, it may not have been a malevolent thing to say.
Piers, here's another curious thing. People are often, when I've got my hair natural, people are curious about what my hair feels like. Yeah. So they'll come up behind me while I'm doing something and run their filthy hands through my hair. It's only curiosity. They might make comment about my feet or talk about me in front of me. It's only curiosity.
So any context that conversation may... We don't know who the conversation was with or the context, but what you're saying is any context in which that kind of conversation happened is automatically racist.
If you are working against a backdrop of non-stop stuff, it doesn't take one straw, only takes one straw to break the camel's back. And what gets me is why is everybody else such an expert about racism against black people? I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Piers. You don't get to call out what is and isn't racism against black people. You can call out all the other stuff. I'll leave you to call out all the other stuff you want, but leave the racism stuff to us.
I think when Meghan Markle calls the royal family a racist institution, it's a very serious allegation.
She doesn't use the phrase racist institution.
Actually, they do. Sorry, they do. They portray the royal family as racist. And it's a very incendiary charge. And I don't think it actually is fair to the royal family to not name the supposed racist. Let's bring in Andrew Morton. Andrew, I don't need to tell you about royal turmoil.
Or royal interviews and the impact that they have.
Yeah, how does this compare to the Diana ongoing saga?
Well, I have to say, my jaw dropped watching that interview, and it is very similar to the Panorama interview 25 years ago that Martin Bashir conducted. The one thing that intrigues me about the whole business of Meghan saying that the baby and the colour of the baby in relation to security and also to whether or not it's be made a prince or a princess is confusing, because it's the Metropolitan Police who decide security. It's the Queen who is the font of all honour. So in a way, Meghan and Harry are accusing the Queen of racism by default. And I find that allegation quite explosive.
I completely agree. This whole thing that she says about how the only reason Archie isn't allowed to be a prince has got nothing to do with royal protocol, but all to do with his potential skin colour. And it will be the Queen that decides that title. That is calling the Queen a racist.
Yeah, the next stage, I think, has got to be that the Metropolitan Police will have to give a reason why Archie wasn't going to be given security.
Well, I think that is again another serious issue that the whole royal family has to deal with, because I feel like, why would they not have security when Prince Harry was still at risk? And as Meghan and Harry both say, they had death threats against them. I'm not sure how people can understand that security was taken away from them.
Because they quit royal duty, they quit the country.
Were still the same
they didn't want to do the hard yards on a wet Wednesday in Stoke at an old people's home. They wanted to live in California in luxury and make hundreds of millions out of Netflix. They can pay for their own security. Chaka Khan, this whole issue of...
Never mind me. Never mind me.
No, I mind you. Chaka Khan, though, is a superstar guest. I'd like to give her some airtime.
I was about to ask Chaka Khan a question.
Well, go on, then.
Which is, what is it like when you're as high profile as you are and you receive the sort of coverage that you say you recognise Meghan received? What does that do to you?
Right. Well, look, no one can no one can talk about what's going on in her mind and heart unless you're standing in her shoes. And that's where it gets really tricky. We're talking about racism here. I'm coming from a country that is very racist. I lived in Britain for over 30 years, and I found some of the same stuff going on that I've seen all over the world. And it's in little bitty ways that are so finely tuned by now that it's almost hard to find. It's hard to call out, you know. I think when the royal family does look into all of her false accusations, that they're going to have to look pretty deep. And I'm only praying, as an American, I'm not a Britisher, but I'm only hoping and praying that they will look into what she is alleging and make it to rights.
Well, I think that's important. It's also important we look into the ongoing allegations about Meghan Markle bullying people, which she's so keen to dismiss, but would actually, from my information, are actually quite serious. Andrew Morton, what would Diana make of this, do you think? I mean, she would not surely be enjoying any of this.
No.
Well, I think the irony is she would be enjoying it. It's almost like Diana's getting her revenge from beyond the grave. I mean, remember, she was the trailblazer in this. She put the boot into Prince Charles 20-odd years ago. She talked about wanting to be the queen of people's hearts, and which prompted the Queen herself to get involved in their divorce.
She wouldn't want William and Harry at war. They don't talk at the moment. I know for a fact they're not talking.
No, there's no question at all that she would want William and Harry to reconcile. But remember, she was actually thinking of moving to Malibu.
Yeah.
She was going to buy Julie Andrews' house. So she could have been with, and also Oprah was going to interview her, and then Martin Bashir.
There are so many echoes. Before we let you go, Roy and Nicholas, you're a royal correspondent. You're very plugged in. You've got great sources. Just tell us about these two weddings, because Meghan and Harry say that the big multi-million-pound wedding, well, it seems to have been a fake. They were already married before that ceremony took place. Do you know what happened? Which one was the real wedding?
The heated television confrontation between Piers Morgan and Trisha Goddard erupted with raw intensity as they sparred over the sensitive issue of racism within the British royal family. Morgan, known for his uncompromising stance on the Sussexes, vehemently challenged Goddard's interpretation of Meghan Markle's claims, his voice rising with characteristic passion. Goddard, drawing from her years of media experience and personal understanding of racial dynamics, pushed back firmly, arguing that Morgan's dismissive approach undermined the serious nature of systemic racism. their verbal exchange became a microcosm of the larger national debate, with Morgan maintaining his skeptical position while Goddard insisted on the validity of Meghan's experiences, creating a tense and revealing moment that captured the complex emotions surrounding the royal racism controversy. Piers Morgan's relentless critique of Meghan Markle's royal revelations. In a characteristically combative display, Piers Morgan launched a scathing attack on Meghan Markle following her explosive Oprah interview, vehemently challenging her allegations of racism within the British royal family. Morgan, known for his unfiltered commentary, systematically dismissed Meghan's claims as fabricated, arguing that her portrayal of institutional racism lacked substantive evidence. His criticism extended beyond the racism allegations, targeting what he perceived as Meghan's deliberate attempt to malign the royal family's reputation. With his trademark confrontational style, Morgan accused the Duchess of Sussex of deliberately weaponizing her personal narrative to damage the monarchy's carefully cultivated public image, repeatedly asserting that her statements were more sensationalist performance than genuine grievance. His vocal and uncompromising stance against Meghan's account became a lightning rod for public debate, highlighting the deep divisions surrounding the Sussex-Windsor relationship and Morgan's own polarizing media persona. The heated debate race, media, and the royal family. In a fiery confrontation that exposed deep-seated tensions in British media, Trisha Goddard passionately defended Meghan Markle's experiences of racism, directly challenging Piers Morgan's dismissive narrative. Drawing from the UK's complex racial history, Goddard forcefully argued that Markle's claims of institutional racism within the royal family were not only credible, but represented a critical moment of reckoning for a society long reluctant to confront its discriminatory past. Her pointed critique went beyond mere support, systematically dismantling Morgan's repeated attempts to minimize and invalidate Markle's lived experiences, highlighting how his aggressive stance exemplified exactly the type of systemic marginalization that Markle had described in her groundbreaking interview with Oprah Winfrey. The royal race controversy. Meghan and Harry's explosive revelations. In their groundbreaking interview with Oprah Winfrey, Meghan Markle and Prince Harry unleashed unprecedented allegations of racism within the British royal family, sending shockwaves through the institution and global media. The most startling revelation was their claim that an unnamed senior royal had expressed concerns about the potential skin color of their son Archie, even before his birth, suggesting a deeply ingrained prejudice that challenged the monarchy's carefully cultivated image of modernization and inclusivity. Meghan, as a biracial woman marrying into the predominantly white royal lineage, felt the full weight of these unspoken but palpable racial tensions, highlighting the institutional racism that seemingly permeated the royal household's inner circles. The couple's assertion that there was a profound lack of support from the royal institution during these challenging moments further underscored the systemic issues of race and privilege that existed behind the palace's ornate walls, forcing a long overdue public conversation about diversity, representation, and the legacy of colonial power within the British monarchy. Piers Morgan's dramatic exit, a televised confrontation. In a shocking display of on-air tension, Piers Morgan's tenure at Good Morning Britain came to an abrupt and controversial end following a heated exchange with fellow presenter Trisha Goddard about Meghan Markle. During a discussion about the royal family's racism allegations, Morgan's passionate and unfiltered criticism escalated to the point where he dramatically walked off the set, leaving viewers and colleagues stunned. The incident quickly spiraled into a national controversy, with Ofcom subsequently receiving over 41,000 complaints about Morgan's inflammatory comments. This unprecedented walkout not only marked the end of Morgan's role at the popular morning show, but also highlighted the deep divide surrounding the sensitive topic of race within the British media and royal discourse. Unraveling racism in British media, the Meghan Markle controversy. The broader debate on racism in the UK has been thrust into sharp relief through high-profile media confrontations, exemplified by the contentious exchanges between Piers Morgan and Trisha Goddard regarding Meghan Markle's experiences within the royal family. Systemic racism continues to permeate British institutions, with public discourse increasingly exposing the deep-seated challenges faced by people of color in prominent spaces. The significance of acknowledging and critically examining racial dynamics cannot be overstated, particularly when public figures like Meghan Markle illuminate the persistent underlying prejudices that shape societal interactions. These conversations reveal not just individual instances of discrimination, but a broader structural issue that demands comprehensive introspection and meaningful policy interventions to dismantle entrenched racial inequalities. Royal tensions, the fallout of racism. Allegations in the British monarchy. In the wake of explosive claims about racism within the royal family, Buckingham Palace found itself in an unprecedented position of public defense and internal reckoning. The palace's carefully worded official statement, while maintaining the traditional veneer of restraint, attempted to address the serious allegations raised by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle without fully admitting systemic fault. Internally, senior royals initiated discreet investigations to understand the scope of the racism claims, recognizing that their centuries-old institution was now under intense global scrutiny regarding diversity and inclusion practices. The controversy exposed deep-seated tensions between the monarchy's historic image and the contemporary expectations of racial equity, forcing the royal family to confront uncomfortable truths about their institutional culture and historical legacy of colonialism. Royal tensions, the Meghan and Harry fallout. The ripple effects of Meghan and Harry's explosive revelations have carved deep fissures within the royal family's traditionally impenetrable facade, dramatically transforming their once privileged position into a landscape of diplomatic isolation. Their strained relationship with the monarchy has been reduced to minimal, carefully choreographed communication, with familial bonds stretched to near breaking point by public accusations of institutional racism and systemic indifference. Ongoing discussions about their evolving roles have become increasingly complex as the couple navigates the delicate balance between maintaining some connection to their royal heritage and establishing a completely independent identity. The uncertainty surrounding their future responsibilities within the institution has created a palpable tension, with both sides seemingly reluctant to fully reconcile or completely sever their familial and historical ties, leaving their status in a perpetual state of unresolved negotiation. Piers Morgan's unrelenting assault on Meghan Markle's credibility. Despite facing widespread criticism and professional consequences for his inflammatory remarks about Meghan Markle, Piers Morgan has remained characteristically defiant, continuing to challenge and dispute her allegations of racism within the royal family. His confrontational stance reached a particularly heated moment during a televised debate with Trisha Goddard, where he persistently questioned the authenticity of Meghan's experiences and the veracity of her claims, effectively doubling down on his provocative narrative. Morgan's ongoing commentary has sparked intense public discourse, with many viewing his commentary as a calculated attempt to undermine Meghan's credibility and dismiss the serious implications of systemic racism within one of Britain's most prestigious institutions. By maintaining his aggressive rhetoric and challenging the nuanced discussions around race, privilege, and institutional bias, Morgan has positioned himself as a polarizing figure who seemingly refuses to acknowledge the potential systemic issues raised by Meghan and Prince Harry's groundbreaking interview. Confronting racism in the royal family. A crucial dialogue of accountability and change. The revelations surrounding racism within the British royal family demand more than just momentary outrage. They necessitate a profound, systemic examination of deeply ingrained prejudices that persist even in supposedly enlightened institutions. As the heated exchange between Piers Morgan and Trisha Goddard demonstrated, these conversations are uncomfortable but absolutely essential, revealing the critical need for greater awareness and genuine understanding of racial discrimination. By listening intently and validating the experiences of marginalized individuals like Meghan Markle, society can begin to dismantle the complex generational structures that perpetuate racial inequality. The challenge lies not just in acknowledging individual incidents of racism, but in confronting the broader systemic issues that have been historically protected by institutional power and cultural silence, requiring sustained commitment, honest dialogue, and meaningful structural reforms across all levels of society.